ChampsTalk, als je knokken niet meer krijgt uit je kop. ChampsTalk, ouwe hoeren zonder rem op de klok. ChampsTalk, voor mijn strijders en mijn vechters passinnen. Ga lekker zitten en laten we beginnen met de ChampsTalk.
What's up, champs? Okay, there seems to be some interesting stuff going on in the heavyweight division, man. We've actually got Rico Verhoeven booked to fight Tariq Osaro in Collision 6. So we're going to do a breakdown for that in a separate video. But right now, for some reason, Rico and Jamal Ben Saddik are jawing at one another. So I think we need to kind of take a step back, recount a little bit of the history, understand how these guys' relationships have changed for better or for worse, what this all means. Is Jamal still with Glory? What's going on? Let's figure it all out. Okay, so the other day I've woken up and a friend of mine from the team has sent us I think it's on Instagram, there's an exchange between Rico and Jamal. So there's a gentleman who says that, look, for the wild card position of the Glory Heavyweight tournament, we need to see Jamal in there. Perfectly valid request from a fan, I'd say. You know, so maybe he can fight in December or the rest of it. And Rico goes, nah, he doesn't deserve a wild card. Why? He's been caught, these are Rico's words, he's been caught twice for doping. He should go from the sport. And Jamal responds and says, hey man, are you afraid of losing another eye? And for those of you who don't know, the second, I think it's actually the third time that these guys fought, in Collision 3, Jamal hit Rico with a bomb, like to the point where Rico couldn't open his phone, his iPhone, it didn't recognize him because of that shot. So that was a spicy fight, man. In fact, it was dubbed Fight of the Year in 2021, and we're gonna go back to that in a second. But he's like, yeah, look, you're right, fake champ. I'm out. Out of what, man? Need to see you back in the ring, man. But he says, yeah, I don't. He said some profanity about something with the board. You know, he doesn't doesn't suck up to the board, basically. So yeah, it's wild exchange between these two. And then Rico's like, hey man, I don't know what you've been sucking on, but it was cooked up in a lab and they put chemicals in it. Gave you a six-pack and didn't give you a heart of a fighter and mentality to never give up. Yeah, so just trash talk between these two guys. And then Jamal responds and says, look, I'm glad that you're following what I'm doing. There's still fear in you. Don't think that because you haven't been caught, that you're clean. And he references EPO, which I think I've heard about this in the UFC, where people take this, I think it's like electrolytes or something like that. I could be totally wrong, so don't slaughter me in the comments. But yeah, it's apparently a form of doping. And then he goes on to reference the fact that after Rico's title defense against Osaro, he's probably going to be away for 2 years. Right? So how did it get this bad between these guys, man? Because I remember when I was there at Collision 3, I actually watched that one live. I became a big fan of both of these guys. I was there in person. It was probably like the second Glory event I'd been to. And Rico really won me over as a fan that night, I have to say. He showed so much heart facing adversity in the beginning. And Jamal was just a juggernaut, man. This guy, I don't think I'd ever seen, like, I'd watched Rico highlights and Rico fights before that, but I'd never seen Rico push like that before. So if we break it down, I understand that in these guys' early careers, they'd met once before. And you can find these details on a podcast that Rico did with Joe Rogan, right? So I think that was a very important interview as well. So a lot of us who maybe didn't really know Rico as a person, when you actually hear him talk about fighting in Joe Rogan's podcast, you start to really appreciate who he is and how he thinks about kickboxing. And he also mentions doping in that interview. He mentions these various things, right? So he says that, look, I think of it as a fighting man, as a thinking man's game, and it's like chess for me. I move around with a lot of lighter weight guys, you know, and you can see that throughout his evolution as a kickboxer. If you see his early fights, sometimes he would stand and bang, but now he's moves around a lot more. He moves, he's very tactical in everything that he does. And so similar to GSP in the UFC, right? That you have a guy with a long a list of title defenses, but maybe he doesn't get a knockout every single time or a finish every single time. And so then there always this thing of, oh, he's a boring fighter, or some people would claim that. But I think in that Collision 3, you really saw Rico show his heart. Like, he came forward after a really bad eye injury, and he just kept going for it. Jamal had fought Rico once before in Glory Redemption. So they had this early career fight between each other. Jamal took that one, and then they had this fight in Glory Redemption. I think it's 2017, right? So yeah, a while ago now. But basically in that fight, it went all 5 rounds, but Jamal was really trying to take it to Rico, but he was also staying a little bit more against the ropes. But he was giving Rico a lot of trouble, right? In that first round, he'd kind of got Rico in a world of trouble. Rico showed his thinking hat. He weathered the storm, weathered the early storm, and just came back from that. But Jamal, again, he showed his heart in that fight, where there's literally the end of that fight is Jamal's in a corner. You can tell that he's dozy or whatever, but he goes out swinging. This guy is not taking no for an answer, right? So Rico's coming at him, he's loading up on shots, and the last thing that you see is Jamal kind of like slip back and then throws a shot as he's falling down. So if that doesn't show heart, I don't know what does. But that really was set up amongst, some kind of like, I think they had some bad blood before. There were some words said at press conferences. But in the lead up to Collision 3, I believe that Jamal also seemed to be a lot more just chilled out. For those of you who don't know that much about Jamal, this guy is a fighter through and through. He's beaten cancer twice. He once won a heavyweight title tournament with a broken hand, right? Again, if that doesn't show heart, I don't know what does, right? So I know that these guys said some awful things about each other in the beginning, but they're both fighters through and through. And so at the end of Collision 3, it kind of seemed to be, like I remember being there and you have Jamal on the mic and he says, hey man, look, I've come from a hard place, I've come from a hard time through the cancer and the rest of it. And yeah, like it sounded like he was tired of the bad blood. And so that's why I'm so surprised by these screenshots and this stuff that you're seeing on Instagram. Maybe it's good promotion, you don't know, but it sounded like they had found their respect for one another, right? So you saw that Rico was like, hey man, I can't even open my iPhone. You saw Jamal smile and give him a handshake and be like, okay, cool, you got this one, sort of thing. But these guys are meant to fight each other. This isn't like in the UFC where you have someone who maybe, this decision doesn't go. It's not like one apiece, and then you can have a trilogy. In kickboxing, people fight each other multiple times regardless of the result, and I think that's actually quite cool, especially in the heavyweight division, because these guys have so much power that on any given night you could have a different result. So there's some talk of maybe Jamal. Is he re-signing with Glory? Is he sticking around with Glory? Will he go somewhere else? This is an important question. I think he would be a amazing addition to the heavyweight title tournament, man. It would be fireworks. He really goes for it. He gets in your face. He's got aggressive boxing, and he's just there to fight. He really is there to fight. I mean, the man's a giant, like 6'9", something like this, and he's built as well, right? So I think it's actually rare to see Rico being pushed back in fights. And you can see how much he was respecting the power of Jamal in whichever fights that they had. Because a lot of the times Rico is the one moving forward. In a lot of these ones, it's Rico who's kind of like on the back foot at the distance, trying to keep himself safe. Which makes a lot of sense. He even says that if I wasn't careful, I'd be caught. I think everyone would love to see these guys fight again. There is obviously these allegations of, substance use or whatever. At the end of the day, as far as we're concerned, that's neither here nor there. We're not the commission. We just hope that we see Jamal back in the ring sooner rather than later. We hope that we have an exciting set of fights that's coming up in the heavyweight tournament. And we hope to see you guys again soon, where we break down Rico versus Cookie Osaro. And maybe after that, Jamal comes back and then him and Rico, or him and Cookie, or whatever. It will be a fun thing to watch. and we hope to see you soon, guys. Keep an eye out on our page for all the latest content. Like, share and subscribe, and to all of our fighters, respect and thank you for entertaining us. Os.
ChampsTalk, als je knokken niet meer krijgt uit je kop. ChampsTalk, ouwe hoeren zonder rem op de klok. ChampsTalk, voor mijn strijders en mijn vechters pas zinnen. Ga lekker zitten en laten we beginnen met de ChampsTalk.